Our homes, they're our sanctuaries, right? But they're also these incredibly complex machines, full of systems we totally rely on, but let's be honest, we almost never understand. I'm talking about the pipes in the walls, the weird boxes humming in the basement. There's this whole hidden world just ticking along right out of sight. And when something in that world breaks, it creates this really unique, kind of modern anxiety. So today, we're going to dive right into that feeling. And we're going to do it by looking at something pretty fascinating, a single page from an online plumbing forum.
Seriously, think about it for a second. What sound does your house make when it breaks? Is it a sudden bang in the middle of the night? A persistent drip, drip, drip that you just can't ignore? Or maybe it's that new, kind of unsettling hum you just can't figure out. For most of us, the sounds of our home are like the soundtrack to our lives. And when that soundtrack changes, that's usually the first sign that something is really wrong.
Okay, let's get into the actual data. Here's our very first post, pulled straight from this forum. And listen, this is not a casual question. That beeping? That's an alarm. It's literally a warning siren coming from deep in the basement. It's screaming urgent, immediate problem. And you can just feel the panic in the question. What should I do? That's not a question, that's a plea for help. A cry into the void against something they just don't understand.
And then you get this. Wow. If the beeping sump pump was a scream for help, this one is the sound of a terrifying silence. A sewer rejector pump, look, it's one of those things you really hope you never have to think about, ever. And when it just stops, there's no alarm. There's just that slow, dawning, horrible realization that a critical system has failed. The problem here isn't the noise, it's the complete lack of it.
But, not all these anxieties are so dramatic. They're not all loud or sudden. Sometimes it's more of a creeping feeling of unease. You're in the shower and you think, the water pressure just isn't what it used to be. It's a much more mysterious problem, right? A quiet symptom that could mean, well, anything. Is it some minor thing, or is it the first sign of something huge and expensive? That uncertainty, that's its own kind of anxiety for sure.
So where do all these questions come from? A public Q&A forum for plumbers. This is basically where people go when they're totally alone with a problem they can't fix. It's just this raw, unfiltered look at what really worries us about our homes.
So this list of posts, this is our dataset for this whole explainer. And at first glance, it looks like a total mess, just a random jumble of household disasters. But if we look a little closer, we can start to see some patterns here. We're going to decode these cries for help and turn all this chaos into something that makes sense.
And to be clear, our source material here is super simple. We're looking at just one page. But on this one page, this one snapshot in time, there are 16 different posts. That's 16 different homeowners, probably in 16 different towns or cities, all logging on with a problem. So this isn't just one person having a bad day, right? This is a shared human experience.
And this is where we can start to make sense of it all. Once you group these 16 questions, you realize they fall into 4 main buckets. First, you've got water heaters. Those questions are all about making them run better and last longer. Then you have pumps, and the theme there is just pure fear of a total disaster. Then pipes and drains. That's all about invisible threats you can't see. And finally, there's general plumbing, which covers all those weird, mysterious symptoms like that water pressure thing.
And if you look even closer, you realize all of this really boils down to 2 major types of anxiety. On one hand, you've got your everyday worries. My faucet isn't getting hot water. It's annoying, for sure, but it feels manageable. It's a problem you can see. But on the other hand, you have the hidden dangers. That's the beeping sump pump, the silent sewer pump. These are the urgent, unseen threats that feel completely, totally out of our control.
All right, let's zoom in on the most common category we found, the water heater. It's kind of the unsung hero of the home, right? It gives us that comfort every single day. And the questions people ask about it, they tell a really fascinating story about what it's like to own one.
It's wild. The questions actually trace the entire life cycle of owning a water heater. The whole journey starts with just trying to understand the basics. Then it moves to installation. Then how to operate it day to day. And finally, it's all about maintenance and trying to make the thing last as long as possible. See, it's not just random questions, it's a logical path. And that journey starts right here, with the most basic questions you can imagine. Before people can even think about buying a new one or fixing their old one, they have to learn the lingo. What is a BTU? What does that even mean? This shows people don't just want a quick fix. They genuinely want to understand, to feel a little more empowered.
So, if the water heater is all about gaining control through knowledge, our next category is the total opposite. This is about the fear of the unknown. It's about the pure terror of those black box systems, the ones that are working completely out of sight, in the dark.
And this is what we're talking about, the home's invisible infrastructure. Things like sump pumps in a dark pit, sewer pumps in the corner of the basement, pipes buried under your lawn. We count on them 100%, but we never ever see them work. And that's what makes it so terrifying when they fail. It feels like your own home is betraying you from a hidden world you didn't even know was there.
And that fear shows up in totally different ways. For the person with the sump pump, the anxiety is a sound, that piercing beep that's yelling, "Do something now!" But for the person with the sewer pump, the anxiety is the silence. One is a warning that a flood might be coming. The other is the realization that a disaster might have already started.
This one just perfectly captures that fear of an unseen enemy. It frames the problem as an invasion. It's not just a broken part. It's nature itself, a tree's roots, silent and powerful, actively working against your home deep underground, where you have no way of seeing it.
Okay, so we've looked at all these specific problems. Let's pull back for a second. What's the bigger picture here? What does this flood of questions and fears really tell us about what it's like to be responsible for the place you live?
I think we can actually give it a name: homeowner anxiety. And let's define it. It's that very specific feeling of responsibility for everything under your roof, mixed with the vulnerability of not really understanding how any of it works. It's the huge gap between what you're responsible for and what you actually know.
So when you really get down to it, this plumbing forum is about so much more than just plumbing. This list of 16 problems, it's like a map. It's a map of our basic human needs when we're faced with something we don't understand. We have a need for knowledge, so we don't feel so helpless, a need for control over our own space, and maybe the most important one, a need for community, to know that we're not the only ones staring at some weird pipe in the basement wondering, what do I do now?
And that's really the big takeaway, isn't it? Our homes might all be different, but our worries, they're remarkably the same. That search for answers, for a little reassurance, for just a little bit of control over the complicated machine we live inside of, that's a journey we're all on together.
So it really makes you think, doesn't it? What's the one question you've always had about your own home? What's that one weird noise, that one little quirk, that one system you've just never ever understood about the place you call home? What's your question?